if you're an army and you attack a city and you knock down the walls, you know how they fall. They fall in, okay? Well, archaeologists have found portions of the wall, but it didn't fall in. It's fallen out. I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's kind of like God has left little bits and pieces of evidence, all along the way to validate, his story. And so you have this tremendous, tremendous victory. Well, it's followed shortly by defeat. And the second city they go after is the city of Ai. This is not nearly big enough, is it? And Jericho's right here. Ai is here. And basically, the military strategy here is they're going to divide the land in half. Okay, so there are all of these, and if you go back and you look at all of these different nations that are occupying the land of Canaan, and basically the strategy is if we divide and conquer. And what you're going to see militarily is they divide the land, they launch a southern campaign, and they go in and they fight, and have all of these battles in the south, and then when they have successfully accomplish what they need to accomplish there, they launch a northern campaign. And they go, there are 31 kings that are mentioned as being defeated in the book of Joshua. So lots and lots of warfare. And it's brutal, by the way. I mean, you read the book, it's not pretty. Now, and some of you might say, well, how could God be so cruel? Because literally, they're told to go in and destroy everything. Don't leave anyone living. And that looks pretty harsh. It's interesting that in Genesis chapter 15, Genesis 12, you have this inciting incident launches Abraham. Genesis chapter 15, there is sort of a renewal of the covenant where God comes and again promises to Abraham that he's going to have children and seed. And by the way, that is the point in Genesis 15 where we're told that Abraham believed God, and it was reckoned unto him as righteousness. It's the verse that Paul uses as an illustration in the book of Romans of what we call a theology of justification by faith, that it was his faith and confidence in what God had promised that was reckoned unto him as righteousness. And in Genesis chapter 15, God puts him to sleep. And he has this dream. And in the dream, God says to him, your descendants are getting ready to take a journey, and they're going to be in Egypt for 400 years. So this is prophesied, this 400 years. And then a fascinating little statement, because the sins of the Amorites has not yet reached its fullness. And basically, I think that what God is saying there, and the reason that he calls them to just annihilate these nations, it's almost grace from the standpoint that there comes a time when humanity is beyond redemption. I don't know how else to say it. It happened in the book of Genesis, where every intention of man's heart was only evil continually, and that's when God brought the flood. That there comes a point in time where it's as if the state of depravity has reached a level that's beyond redemption, and apparently that's about the point these nations were. We know they were engaged in all kinds of brutal kinds of even their religion involved, child sacrifice and offering kids to the gods and burning them alive and lots of cultic prostitution. I mean, they were depraved, and God basically says when you go in, and the first instruction when He sends them to Ai is not only are you to destroy all the people, but you destroy everything. And within the army of Israel, one guy out of 600,000 soldiers gets tempted and takes clothing and gold and silver, I think are the three things that he takes, and he hides them for himself, and out of Jericho, I guess it was, and they go up to do battle in Ai, and they get their clocks cleaned. And they send a small group up to begin with because they're thinking, hey, this is no big deal at all. And they get defeated, and everybody is like wiped out because it's like, wait a minute, it's back to the giants in the land and we're grasshoppers sort of a mindset. And God basically says, here's why. The only way I'm with you is if you live in obedience to me, and someone has violated that, and they kind of go through the process of identifying. My hunch is it's casting lots or Urim and Thummim or whatever they used in the decision-making process, and they identify the guy. Achan, I think, is the guy's name, and they put him to death, and they go back and attack Ai again and defeat them and destroy the city. And so they launch that initial campaign that divides the land, and then the rest of the book is really these two campaigns, northern campaign, southern campaign. They don't eliminate everybody. And those that they don't eliminate are going to cause them problems for roughly the next 500 years or so. And the book of all the way to the time of David, like Philistines is one illustration. They don't defeat the Philistines. And so the Philistines are going to wreak havoc on them, until David finally, finishes them off. But they divide and they conquer, northern, southern, and then what they do is they create a homeland. And that is after the military campaigns are finished, they assign there's 12 tribes, but 2 of them are half tribes, because Joseph has divided his inheritance between 2 of his sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. So if you go back to the original 12 tribes, you'll find Joseph, but you won't find Ephraim or Manasseh. And now what you're going to see is there's really basically 13 tribes. You won't see Joseph anywhere because he gives his inheritance to his 2 sons, tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh. And so they settle the land. And the final sort of scene in this part of the story, and again, you can almost imagine that just coming fast and furious in battle after battle and campaign until they can subdue the land and then settle it down. And finally, at the end of the book, Joshua, as a great leader, challenges the nation, and this is probably one of the best known parts of the book, and where he basically, again, renews the covenant with them and challenges them and basically says, who are you going to serve? Are you going to serve the gods of the land of Canaan? Are you going to serve the Lord? And then, of course, he makes his famous challenge, choose this day whom you will serve. But as for me and my house, we will serve Yahweh. And the nation confirms their commitment and their covenant with God, and the curtain goes down.